So I never really thought that I would want to pick up a camera and try and get some cool shots. It's kind of weird where you end up, I guess. One of my first real memories of remembering what I really wanted to do with my life was in primary school at a disco. And at this disco, we ended up having this DJ come in and play, now come to think of it, some really terrible songs from the 2000s. One day they set up this karaoke event and I ended up performing at it and I absolutely loved it. I was ridiculed for years and I'm still being remembered for the kid that sung God knows how much. I mean, I was always a shy kid. I was always the shy kid at school. I never really had any friends. I stayed out the way of everybody. I mean, at lunchtime, I'd plug in my headphones and just sit on the field if it was sunny. And at the end of my time at primary school, we had a Year 6 leavers play sort of thing that we had to do, which was Yee-Haw. So now, if any of you don't know what Yee-Haw is, which most of you probably don't if you didn't do the production, it was a Western musical about a kid who like gets put into a sheriff lottery in this cowboy town. I ended up applying for a side character, I think the name was Dimples, who didn't have many lines, didn't have any contact with any other characters really, and didn't really need that much acting. And I got pulled aside by one of the teachers and was asked to sing a song in front of them, which obviously Shy Craig at the time didn't particularly like that. Anyway, fast forward a couple of weeks and we were given our roles, and I was given one of the main characters' roles, which funny enough had a lot of lines, a lot of singing, and a lot of acting. I wasn't a great actor, nor am I now, and I certainly couldn't do the American accent. See, that's Australian. And I certainly couldn't do the American accent. I was still doing Australian. It actually went quite smoothly. I mean, I had the home video of it somewhere around here. So I joined secondary school and I ended up joining a band called The Reason Why. We started going around to like the cricket club to play some gigs, along with all the other bands we were involved with. The local theatre, you know, just the normal stuff that bands do. And eventually, at one point, we had the pleasure of performing at Party in the Park in Pitstone. And I just remember we were writing our own songs at this point, or we were just about to, and we had written one song, and I remember just being up on that stage, performing in front of thousands of people. I say thousands, it was probably hundreds, it felt like thousands. And it was just such a surreal moment. But again, times changed, the band broke up as inevitably most bands do. And again, I joined a few others, and we started creating songs, and we started writing our own songs.
The soldiers fighting, don't care if I'm dying. Be brave, I swear to you, I won't let go.
And it felt like that was going to be my calling. It felt like that the whole point of my life was to be up on stage, performing songs and hearing the audience sing back the lyrics that I had written, and knowing that there was an emotional connection to something that I had a hand in creating with thousands of people. But then I left school, and eventually the band stopped, eventually the singing stopped, and I just sort of fell out of that life. And then I joined college and did my media BTech, and I discovered the cameras and the acting and all this other stuff that was not only just the camera work in the industry, everything in the industry, everything about it, the pre-production, the post-production, the actual production just intrigued me. I was fascinated by all these different steps and different procedures that each of these individual elements of the industry itself was providing. And then we came to a practical assessment where we did ADR you had multiple different scenes that you could pick from, and our team picked the scene from The Dark Knight with the interrogation of the Joker with Batman, and I played the Joker. By no means was I good at voice acting. I loved it. I adored every second of being able to come up with these different voices, these different emotional constructs, these little quirks of characters. I never really had a goal or an aspiration at that point in my life. I never really thought that I was going to go somewhere other than the singing for a brief 2 years. And then I started a YouTube channel. I just began doing silly little Q&As, silly little gaming videos with me and my mates. Sometimes even with like a girlfriend or something like that, there'd be a video with them. And then it sort of went a bit downhill. I started creating short films in a way. I started creating these little stories that would go in front of the gaming videos so that it would tie in each time I played a game in a certain part. But obviously, it was just me. I was the only one in this creative, world that I was in at that time. Every single shot was done by me on a tripod. It was always a static shot, and it was always this Panasonic Handycam that was used. Don't get me wrong, after creating some really bad stuff, if you haven't seen the video where I react to some of the work I did a long time ago, go watch that now, because you'll understand what I mean by bad stuff. I mean scraping the bottom of the barrel bad. And then we came to the final assessment of my college years and the final thing I'd ever do for my educational years, which was the final major project in college, in which I wrote a script called One More Bottle, and it was all about a teenager who had multiple personality disorder with an alcoholic drinking issue. And after doing that, that was a very serious piece. It was supposed to be very thought-provoking. Obviously it wasn't, because I was a college student. I then went on to write more stuff. I did a comedic parody of Dexter called Blood Moon. Again, it was never made, but it was something that I'd written, and something that I was proud of that I'd written. The concept of it was just a 5 to 6 minute short film. I'd never really made a film before, but I started to realise the ideas in my head. I loved the look of this short film. I could see every shot panning out how it was going to. I am not a good artist. I can't even draw stickmen. But I started storyboarding stuff. I started doing all this paperwork behind the scenes, and even though it was paperwork, even though it was the theoretical element of it, I loved it. Really loved it. And I loved the idea that certain camera angles could portray different emotions or different effects or all these little different nitpicky type of things. It's really weird. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've always loved watching films, always. But it was because I was able to get out of my own head and see the story and just watch the film for what it is. I never really saw it as a thing of, oh, that shot looks really cool because it was done from this crane at this time with a 60 frame per second camera with a red camera or whatever. I never really had that connection to the film industry like that. Then when I finished college, I lost my aspirations. The idea of voice acting just went out the door. Singing just wasn't applicable anymore, and I'd lost my creative element on YouTube. Some would say I still have. I spent months just withering away doing nothing, having this constant existential crisis of what I was supposed to do with life. Then I thought, hey, I'll try and create a business. Why not? My brother and sister-in-law could do it, in the sense that doing promotional videos. So yeah, if there's anyone who's available for a copyright lawsuit, it's me with my brother, and my brother against me. Trying to figure out the name for the company was probably one of the hardest things to do. I knew what I wanted to do to a certain aspect. I knew that I wanted to involve these short films and the narrative aspect, but I also wanted to involve promotional videos because it helped smaller businesses, especially in times like this with the quarantine and the COVID going around. A lot of businesses are going to die, a lot of them. Thankfully, I have a different job, so I'm not relying on my business at the moment. But if I was, I'd be screwed. And it's a shame to see so many people going out of work. I knew I wanted to have short films, for definite. I wanted to at least be able to, at one point, create at least one short film. And no, I haven't really got to that yet. But I've created short entertainment vlogs It just meant that I wasn't trapped in a corner. And now, here I am, trying to figure out how to travel the world to get some beautiful photos and videos, and having worked with people like the Metropolitan Police, having been in Spain with a partner I had at the time and enjoying the time I had there, trying to be the best person I can before I get trapped in a 9-to-5 job that I know if I do get trapped in, I will regret for the rest of my life. To end this video off, you might be asking, why am I doing an Origins video? And it's quite simple, really. Just 2 words. Self-isolation. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please remember to like, subscribe to keep up to date with the Fully Focused family. If you guys are in a state where you're self-quarantining, I hope you guys are okay. Stay safe, stay clean. Other than that, that's about it. Anyway guys, I hope to see you on the next shoot. Bye.